Days bled into weeks, the monotony of hyperspace travel punctuated only by the hum of the Odyssey's engines. George spent his days poring over star charts and ancient texts, searching for any clue that could lead him to his goal. Then it happened. A faint blip on the long-range scanners, an anomaly flickering at the edge of their detection radius. His pulse quickened. Could this be it? He ordered the ship to change course, steering them towards the anomaly. The closer they got, the stronger the signal became, confirming his suspicions. This was no ordinary anomaly. This was the signature of advanced technology, ancient and powerful. The lost space station was real. As the Odyssey emerged from hyperspace, the lost station materialized before them, a ghostly apparition against the backdrop of 1 billion stars. It was colossal, a sprawling monument to a forgotten era, its metallic hull scarred and pitted by the ravages of time. The station was eerily silent. No signs of life detectable from their vantage point. George cautiously maneuvered the Odyssey closer, his heart pounding in his chest. The station loomed larger with every passing moment, its sheer size dwarfing his own vessel. He engaged the docking clamps, feeling the Odyssey shudder as it connected with the station's docking bay. The moment of truth had arrived. He was about to step into the unknown, to walk the corridors of a legend. His boots echoed on the metal floors as he ventured deeper into the station. Dust hung heavy in the air, stirred only by his passage. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the hiss of his own breath. He passed by darkened corridors and abandoned control rooms, the air thick with the ghosts of decisions made and lives lived. The station was a tomb, a silent testament to a forgotten chapter of history. He came across a data log, its screen flickering faintly in the gloom. He activated it, his heart pounding with anticipation. The log sputtered to life, displaying holographic images of the station in its prime, bustling with activity. He learned of a civilization on the brink of a technological singularity, their ambition matched only by their hubris. But something had gone wrong, a catastrophic event that consumed them all. As he ventured deeper into the heart of the station, he began to notice strange occurrences. Flickering lights, whispers carried on the air, shadows moving at the edge of his vision. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. He reached a vast chamber, its ceiling lost in the gloom above. The air here felt different, charged with an unseen energy. And then he saw them, ethereal figures, shimmering forms that seemed to coalesce from the very air itself. They were the station's guardians, remnants of the lost civilization, their consciousnesses trapped within the station's systems. He reached out, his hand passing through one of the figures. He felt a surge of energy, a connection forming between them. They were trapped, bound to this place by their own technology, unable to move on. Guided by the whispers of the station's spectral inhabitants, George found his way to the station's central control room. It was a cavernous space dominated by a massive holographic projector that displayed a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. But what caught his attention was the object at its center, pulsating with a faint ethereal glow. It was a sphere no larger than a basketball, crafted from an unknown material that seemed to absorb and refract light. As he approached, he felt a strange pull towards it, a sensation that resonated deep within his very being. The spirits swirled around him, their whispers growing in intensity, urging him closer. He reached out, his hand trembling slightly, and touched the sphere. A jolt of energy surged through him, sending him reeling backward. He saw the truth. The sphere was a repository of knowledge and power, a last-ditch effort to preserve their legacy. The sphere pulsed with energy, a beacon in the darkness of the abandoned station. George, still reeling from the visions it had unleashed, realized the true extent of the power he now held within his grasp. This was not just knowledge, but the very essence of a lost civilization. Their hopes, dreams, and regrets, all woven into the fabric of the artifact. He could feel the spirits swirling around him, their ethereal forms flickering with renewed energy. They were drawn to him, to the sphere, their whispers filling his mind. They were no longer just echoes of the past, but a chorus yearning for release, for purpose. And he, as their chosen heir, held the key to their liberation. He focused his will, channeling the energy of the sphere, feeling its power surge through his veins. The station hummed around him, responding to his touch. He could feel the spirits merging with his consciousness, their collective will intertwining with his own. He was no longer just a man, but a conduit, a vessel for something far greater than himself.
The royal court of the Golden Star planet pulsed with vibrant life. The Grand Hall was a spectacle of opulence and splendor, where courtiers in elaborate attire mingled and conversed, their laughter and chatter creating a symphony of human connection. The walls were adorned with intricate tapestries depicting the planet's rich history, and the ceiling was a masterpiece of celestial art, painted to resemble the night sky with twinkling stars. Exotic plants, their leaves shimmering with gold, lined the polished obsidian floors. These plants were not just for decoration, they were symbols of the planet's prosperity and the Emperor's connection to the natural world. Each leaf seemed to pulse with a life of its own, reflecting the golden light that filled the hall. The air hummed with the soft melodies of unseen instruments. These melodies were not merely background music, they were the lifeblood of the court, a constant reminder of the harmony and peace that the Golden Star planet had enjoyed for centuries. The music seemed to weave through the air, touching the hearts of all who heard it. At the heart of it all rested the Emperor's crystal ball, a swirling vortex of stardust and light. This mystical object was more than a mere artifact. It was a beacon of hope and a tool of immense power. The crystal ball had been passed down through generations, each emperor adding their own essence to its magic. It was an object of immense power, capable of peering into the furthest reaches of the cosmos and revealing the threads of fate. The crystal ball could show visions of possible futures, guiding the emperor in making decisions that would shape the destiny of the planet. It was both a blessing and a burden, for with great power came great responsibility.
The darkness grows stronger. This ominous statement echoed through the hall, sending a shiver down the spines of those present. It was a warning that could not be ignored, a sign that something malevolent was on the horizon.
Princess Laran, her brow creased with worry, stared into the swirling depths of the crystal ball. She had always been attuned to its magic, able to see more clearly than most. But today the visions were troubling, filled with shadows and uncertainty. The images were fragmented, obscured by a creeping darkness. It was as if the future itself was being swallowed by an unknown force, making it difficult to discern what lay ahead. The once clear visions were now murky and indistinct, filled with foreboding. She saw flashes of a desolate wasteland, a shadowy figure with eyes like burning embers, and her own face, pale and drawn, reflecting a future she desperately wished to avoid. These visions were not just warnings, they were a call to action, urging her to find a way to prevent this bleak future from becoming reality. Thorne, the royal guard captain, murmured, his hand resting reassuringly on the hilt of his sword. He was a pillar of strength and loyalty, always ready to protect the princess and the realm. His presence was a comfort to Laran, a reminder that she was not alone in this struggle. His weathered face was a mask of concern, mirroring the princess's own anxieties. Thorne had seen many battles and faced countless dangers, but the threat they now faced was unlike any other. It was a darkness that could not be fought with swords or shields.
We must act swiftly. The urgency in his voice was palpable, a call to arms that resonated with everyone in the hall. Time was of the essence, and they could not afford to hesitate. The fate of the Golden Star hangs in the balance. This statement was not just a metaphor, it was a stark reality. The balance of power, the harmony of their world was at risk, and the consequences of failure were too dire to contemplate.
Gabrielle, the royal advisor, urged, his voice a low tremor in the silent hall. He was a man of wisdom and experience, his counsel always sought in times of crisis. His words carried weight, and his concern was evident in every syllable. His normally vibrant robes seemed dull, weighed down by the gravity of the situation. Gabrielle's attire was a reflection of his mood, the once bright colors now muted, as if the very fabric of his being was affected by the looming threat. The weight of responsibility pressed down on Laran's shoulders. She was young, but the burden she carried was immense. The future of her people depended on her ability to navigate this crisis and find a solution. The fate of her people, her world, rested on her decisions. Every choice she made would have far-reaching consequences, and the pressure to make the right decisions was overwhelming. But Laran was determined to rise to the challenge. She had to be strong for their sake. Her resolve was unwavering, her spirit unbroken. Laran knew that she could not afford to falter, for the hopes and dreams of the Golden Star planet were in her hands. She would face the darkness head-on, with courage and determination, ready to do whatever it took to protect her people and secure their future. whatever challenges came their way. They would overcome every obstacle, and they would find George, for the fate of the Golden Star and for the future of their world. The air grew heavy and cold as they approached the abandoned space station. Each step they took seemed to echo in the vast emptiness, amplifying the sense of isolation and dread that hung in the air. The station had been abandoned for years, yet it felt as if it was waiting for them, watching their every move. It was a hulking metal carcass, orbiting the Golden Star like a forgotten god of war. The once bustling hub of activity was now a silent sentinel, its corridors and chambers devoid of life. The station's exterior was scarred and battered, a testament to the battles it had witnessed and the passage of time. This was George's domain, a place where shadows danced and whispers taunted the living. The darkness seemed to have a life of its own, shifting and swirling as if it were alive. George had spent years here, alone with the shadows, and it had changed him in ways that were hard to understand.
Be on your guard. The warning was clear, but it was more than just a caution against physical danger. It was a reminder that this place had a way of getting inside your head, playing tricks on your mind. This place, it's not right. The walls seemed to close in, the air thick with an oppressive energy that made it hard to breathe. Every sound was amplified, every shadow seemed to hide something sinister.
He wasn't wrong. The station was a place of nightmares, a twisted labyrinth where reality and illusion blurred. It was easy to lose yourself here, to forget who you were and why you had come. The air hummed with a strange energy, a discordant symphony of whispers and moans. It was as if the station itself was alive, a sentient being that fed on fear and despair. The lights flickered and dimmed, casting eerie shadows that seemed to move of their own accord. The shadows seemed to writhe, taking on monstrous shapes that danced just beyond the edge of sight. They were like phantoms, always there but never fully seen, a constant reminder of the station's malevolent presence. Suddenly a figure materialized before them. It was as if the shadows had coalesced into a human form, a dark silhouette that seemed to absorb the light around it. George. His eyes, once filled with warmth and humor, were now cold and distant, like chips of ice. He had become a part of the station, a living embodiment of its darkness and despair.
You shouldn't have come. His voice was a hollow echo, devoid of emotion. It was a warning, but also a statement of fact. This place had claimed him, and it would claim them too if they weren't careful. This place, it changes you. The final words hung in the air, a chilling reminder of the station's power. It was a place where the line between reality and nightmares blurred, where the shadows held secrets and the walls whispered of forgotten horrors.
We need your help, George. The darkness is coming. The crystal ball has shown us.
Laran pleaded, stepping forward.
The crystal ball always shows you what it wants you to see, little princess.
This is different. This threatens us all.
George's gaze swept over them, lingering on each face for a beat too long.
There is a way, an ancient prophecy hidden within the royal archives. It speaks of a magical book, a weapon capable of controlling the very spirits that now plague us.
Hope flickered in Lauren's chest. It was a long shot, but it was a chance to fight back against the encroaching darkness, to save her people.
The spaceship Star Wanderer hurtled through the vast expanse of space, its sleek hull cutting through the cosmic void with a sense of purpose and urgency. The stars and galaxies whizzed past, creating a mesmerizing backdrop of twinkling lights and swirling nebulae, a beacon of hope in a galaxy teetering on the brink of chaos and destruction. The Star Wanderer was more than just a vessel. It was a symbol of humanity's resilience and determination to survive against all odds. On board, Captain George, a grizzled veteran with eyes that held the wisdom of countless star charts, adjusted the ship's trajectory with practiced precision. His hands moved deftly over the controls, each motion a testament to his years of experience navigating the treacherous expanses of space. His gaze, filled with a mixture of determination and trepidation, was fixed on the swirling vortex of energy that pulsed ominously in the distance. This was no ordinary cosmic phenomenon. It was a harbinger of the unknown, a gateway to potential peril. Beside him stood Thorne, the ship's navigator, his nimble fingers dancing across the control panel as he plotted a course through the treacherous cosmic currents. Thorne's expertise in charting paths through the most hazardous regions of space was unparalleled, and his calm demeanor belied the gravity of their mission.
Captain, the energy readings are off the charts. Something isn't right. The readings were unlike anything they had encountered before, spiking erratically and defying all known scientific explanations.
George nodded grimly, his jaw set in a hard line. He had faced many dangers in his career, but this felt different. There was an undercurrent of malevolence that he couldn't quite put his finger on. "George, I know, Thorne, I know." His voice was steady, but there was a hint of unease that he couldn't completely mask. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on his shoulders. He turned his gaze towards the main view screen, where a holographic projection flickered to life, revealing the ethereal forms of swirling spectral entities. These entities were unlike anything they had ever seen, their forms shifting and changing with an eerie fluidity. They pulsed with an eerie, malevolent energy that sent shivers down his spine. The sight of these spectral beings filled the crew with a sense of dread, their very presence a reminder of the unknown dangers that lay ahead.
Evil spirits. They are drawn to our fear, our despair. They feed on it. The words were spoken with a gravity that left no room for doubt. These entities thrived on negative emotions, growing stronger with each passing moment of fear and uncertainty.
Her words hung in the air, heavy with foreboding, casting a pall over the already tense atmosphere. The crew exchanged worried glances, each member acutely aware of the stakes, casting a pall over the already tense atmosphere. The dim lighting of the control room only added to the sense of impending doom, the shadows playing tricks on their minds. The fate of their planet, Golden Star, rested on their shoulders. This mission was their last hope, a desperate bid to save their home from the encroaching darkness. They were humanity's last hope, tasked with venturing into the uncharted territories of the Andromeda Galaxy to seek aid against the spectral menace that threatened to consume their world. The journey ahead was fraught with danger, but they had no choice but to press on. But as the Star Wanderer drew closer to the source of the disturbance, the crew couldn't shake the feeling that they were sailing towards not salvation, but oblivion. The unknown loomed large before them, a dark and foreboding presence that seemed to whisper of their impending doom. Despite the fear gnawing at their hearts, the crew knew they had to stay united. Their strength lay in their camaraderie and their unwavering resolve to protect their home. Each member of the crew brought unique skills and perspectives, and together they formed a formidable team. With a deep breath, Captain George steeled himself for the challenges ahead. His hands gripped the controls tightly, his mind racing with strategies and contingency plans. He knew that the road ahead would be perilous, but he was determined to see it through. The Star Wanderer weaved through a field of asteroids, the crew working in perfect harmony to avoid collisions. Each maneuver was executed with precision, a testament to their training and teamwork. As they approached their destination, the crew studied the holographic map intently, their eyes scanning for any signs of danger. The map displayed a labyrinth of cosmic anomalies, each one a potential threat to their mission. In the face of uncertainty, the crew found solace in each other's company. They shared moments of camaraderie, exchanging encouraging words and bolstering each other's spirits. They knew that their strength lay in their unity, and they were determined to face whatever challenges lay ahead together. As the Star Wanderer approached a mysterious glowing portal, the crew braced themselves for the unknown. This was the moment they had been preparing for, the culmination of their journey. With a final, resolute nod, Captain George gave the order to proceed, and the Star Wanderer plunged into the portal, ready to face whatever awaited them on the other side. The ship shuddered violently as a wave of psychic energy washed over it, the very fabric of reality seeming to warp and twist under the immense pressure. The crew could feel the psychic assault in their minds, a gnawing presence that threatened to unravel their sanity. The ethereal forms of the spectral entities grew larger and more menacing in the view screen, their ghostly shapes flickering with an otherworldly light. Each passing moment brought them closer, their intentions shrouded in a veil of malevolence. Their whispers, once faint and distant, now echoed through the corridors of the Star Wanderer, chilling the crew to their very core. The voices seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, a cacophony of despair that gnawed at their resolve.
They're getting stronger. Our shields won't hold them off for much longer. The energy readings are off the charts, and the integrity of our defenses is rapidly deteriorating.
He frantically adjusted the controls, but the ship continued to buck and tremble under the onslaught. Every attempt to stabilize the vessel seemed futile, as if the very laws of physics were being bent by the spectral entity's will. George gripped the arms of his command chair, his knuckles white with tension. The weight of command bore down on him, and he knew that the lives of his crew depended on his ability to keep a clear head. He could feel the despair creeping in, threatening to consume him. The relentless assault of the spectral entities was not just a physical threat, but a psychological one as well, eroding their will to fight. "George, Laran, can you sense what they want?" His voice was tinged with desperation, hoping that her empathic abilities could provide some insight into their attackers' motives. Laran closed her eyes, her brow furrowed in concentration as she reached out with her empathic abilities, probing the minds of the spectral entities. The effort was immense, and she could feel the cold, alien thoughts pressing against her consciousness. A look of terror crossed her face, and she gasped, staggering back as if struck. The sheer malevolence of their thoughts was overwhelming, a dark tide that threatened to drown her.
They crave destruction. They hunger for the extinction of all life. Her voice trembled with the weight of the revelation, the horror of their intentions laid bare. And they believe that Golden Star is the key. The significance of the Golden Star was not lost on the crew, its importance now a beacon of hope and dread.
Her words hung in the air, a chilling prophecy that sent a wave of dread through the crew. The realization that their mission had taken on a new, more perilous dimension was inescapable. The crew exchanged worried glances, the weight of their situation pressing down on them. They knew that the path ahead would be fraught with danger, and that the fate of countless lives now rested in their hands. The spectral menace was not just a threat to their ship, but to the very fabric of existence itself. News of the spectral entities and their insatiable hunger reached the Emperor of Planet Golden Star. The message was dire, filled with ominous warnings and desperate pleas for help. The Emperor, a man of great wisdom and courage, felt a chill run down his spine as he absorbed the gravity of the situation. Despair gripped his heart as he listened to the garbled transmission from Captain George, the weight of his responsibility heavier than ever. The captain's voice, usually so steady and confident, was now laced with fear and uncertainty. The Emperor knew that the fate of his people rested on his shoulders, and the burden was almost too much to bear. He knew he had to act, but what could he possibly do against such an overwhelming threat? The spectral entities were unlike anything he had ever faced before. They were relentless, driven by an insatiable hunger that seemed to know no bounds. The Emperor's mind raced as he considered his options, but none seemed viable. Seeking guidance, he summoned the great sage, a wizened old man who lived in seclusion, his mind attuned to the ebb and flow of the cosmos. The sage was known for his wisdom and insight, and the Emperor hoped that he might have the answers he so desperately needed. The great sage listened patiently as the Emperor poured out his fears and anxieties. He spoke of the spectral entities, their terrifying power, and the devastation they had already wrought. The sage's eyes remained calm and focused, his expression one of deep understanding. When he finally finished, the old man remained silent for a long moment, his eyes closed, his wrinkled face a mask of contemplation. The Emperor waited, his heart pounding in his chest as the sage delved deep into his thoughts, seeking the wisdom of the ages.
My Emperor, I have consulted the stars, and the outlook is bleak. The celestial patterns reveal a dark and foreboding future, one where the spectral entities grow ever stronger, feeding off the very essence of our world. The spectral entities are drawn to Golden Star, drawn to its life force, its very essence. They are like moths to a flame, unable to resist the allure of our planet's vibrant energy. Their hunger is insatiable, and they will not stop until they have consumed everything in their path.
The Emperor hung on his every word, a glimmer of hope flickering in his chest. Perhaps there was a way to turn the tide, to find a solution that would save his people from certain doom. He leaned forward, his eyes locked on the sage, waiting for the wisdom that might yet save them. Was there a way to appease these entities, to satisfy their hunger? The Emperor's mind raced with possibilities, each more desperate than the last. He thought of ancient rituals, forgotten spells and long-lost artifacts that might hold the key to their salvation. But the great sage's next words extinguished that hope like a candle snuffed out by a cold wind. The Emperor's heart sank as he realized that the path to salvation would not be an easy one, and the cost would be great.
There is only one way to save Golden Star. The ancient texts speak of a ritual, a binding ceremony that can forge a connection between our world and the spectral entities. But it requires a sacrifice, a willing soul to bridge the gap between our realms. A sacrifice must be made. The ritual is ancient and powerful, and it demands a price that cannot be ignored. The chosen one must be pure of heart, willing to give themselves for the greater good. Your daughter, Laran, must be wed to the spectral entity. She is the key, the one who can save us all. Her purity and strength will bind the entities to our world, appeasing their hunger and protecting our people from their wrath.
The Emperor recoiled as if struck.
What are you saying? Sacrifice my daughter to those monsters?
The very thought was unbearable, a dagger to his heart. Laran, his beloved daughter, the light of his life, offered up to appease those creatures of darkness? It was an impossible choice. He paced the length of his chamber, his mind a maelstrom of conflicting emotions. Fear for his people, love for his daughter, the weight of his responsibility as emperor, all of it threatened to crush him. How could he condemn his own flesh and blood to such a fate? The great sage watched him with a mixture of pity and resignation. He understood the emperor's pain, the impossible choice he faced.
The prophecy is clear, my emperor. There is no other way.
The emperor stopped his pacing and turned to face the old man, his eyes filled with a mixture of desperation and defiance.
There must be another way. Find it, I beg of you.
But even as he spoke the words, he knew deep down that the great sage was right. The prophecy was clear, the choice was unavoidable.
George stood upon a mountain of skulls. His black armor gleamed. He was a spectre of death. His eyes, like burning embers, scanned the battlefield. His army, a tide of darkness, surged forward. They were relentless, driven by their master's will. His laughter echoed across the ravaged land. Victory was within his grasp. The world trembled before him. His power, fueled by the black gem, knew no bounds. He was the bringer of chaos, the harbinger of despair. He raised his hand, the black gem pulsing ominously. Soon all would kneel. Soon the world would be his. The black gem pulsed with unholy light. It was a void in the world, sucking in all that was good and pure. Its energy was infectious, spreading like a disease. Trees withered at its touch. Rivers ran black with its taint. The very air crackled with malevolent power. It was the source of George's power, the heart of his darkness. He held it aloft, drawing strength from its depths. The gem pulsed in response, its dark energy flowing into him. He reveled in its power. But even in its depths, a flicker of defiance, a sliver of light, a whisper of hope. The gem could be destroyed, it had to be. The time to strike was now. The battle raged. Laran's staff crackled with energy, each bolt a beacon of defiance. Thorne, a whirlwind of steel, cut through the enemy ranks. They fought with the fury of righteous anger. The air crackled with magic. Swords clashed against axes. Screams pierced the air. The stench of blood and fear hung heavy. Despite their valor, the forces of darkness were overwhelming. Each fallen comrade fueled their determination, but despair gnawed at their hearts. Yet they pressed on. Each step forward was a victory. Each fallen enemy brought them closer to their goal. They would reach George. Section 5. A Glimmer of Hope. Laran stumbled, her energy spent. Thorne, wounded but unbroken, covered her retreat. They had reached the foot of the mountain, their path littered with the bodies of friend and foe alike. George watched from above, a cruel smile on his face. He raised his hand, the black gem pulsing ominously. They were so close, yet so far. Suddenly a blinding light, a deafening roar. The earth shook. Laran looked up, her heart pounding with a mixture of hope and fear. Reinforcements had arrived. A small band of survivors, led by the old wizard, stormed the mountain. Their arrival was a beacon of hope. The tide was turning. Section 7. Prophecy of the Child. In the ancient texts, it was foretold that a child would be born under extraordinary circumstances, a beacon of hope in the darkest of times. Laran rushed to Thorne's side, her heart pounding with fear and desperation. She had to reach him before it was too late. He was alive, but barely. His breaths were shallow and his eyes fluttered weakly. The effort had taken its toll on him, leaving him on the brink of unconsciousness. Every movement seemed to drain the last of his strength. He smiled weakly at her, his hand reaching for hers, their fingers intertwined, a silent promise of support and love. As darkness receded, a new light emerged. Laran gasped, her eyes widening in astonishment at the sight before her. In her arms, a baby, his eyes shining with an unearthly glow. Their child, born amidst chaos and destruction, yet radiating an aura of peace and power. Born amidst the ruins of war, the child was a symbol of hope and renewal. The battlefield around them seemed to fade away in his presence. The old wizard approached, his face etched with awe and fear. He had seen many things in his long life, but nothing like this. The prophecy, he whispered, his voice trembling with the weight of ancient knowledge. The child is born under a blood moon. He will be hunted. He must be protected. The child is born under a blood moon. He will be hunted. He must be protected. The words echoed in the air, a dire warning and a call to action. Laran looked down at her son, her heart filled with a fierce love and determination. She knew the path ahead would be fraught with danger. She would protect him, no matter the cost. Her resolve was unshakable, her spirit unbreakable. He was their hope, their legacy. In his tiny hands he held the future of their world, and she would ensure that future was bright. Section 8. Legacy of Shadows. The victory was bittersweet. The echoes of the battle still lingered in the air, a haunting reminder of the sacrifices made. The world was safe for now. The dawn brought a fragile peace, a momentary respite from the chaos that had engulfed their lives. But the cost had been high. Too many lives lost. The ground was stained with the blood of heroes, and the silence was filled with the unspoken grief of those left behind, too many scars left behind. The land bore the marks of their struggle, each scar a testament to the fierce battles fought and the resilience of those who survived. George was gone, but the evil that fueled him lingered. His presence was a dark shadow that refused to fade, a constant reminder of the threat that still loomed. It whispered in the shadows, waiting for its chance to rise again. The darkness was patient, biding its time, ready to strike when they least expected it. The fight was far from over. The warriors knew that their victory was only temporary, and they steeled themselves for the battles yet to come. The prophecy weighed heavily upon them. It spoke of a great darkness, a force that would rise to challenge them once more, and they could not ignore its warning. Their son was in danger. The prophecy had foretold his role in the coming conflict, and they feared for his safety. They had to find a way to protect him, to shield him from the darkness that sought to claim him. Their journey was fraught with peril, but their resolve was unshakable. They needed a sanctuary, a place far from the reach of their enemies. A hidden refuge where they could regroup and plan their next move. A place where their son could grow up safe, unaware of the burden he carried. In this sanctuary, they hoped he would find peace, even if only for a little while. Section 9, Escape to Earth. This is the story of a desperate journey, a quest for survival. The old wizard spoke of a portal, a gateway to another world. A world called Earth, a place of refuge, a sanctuary from the darkness that consumed their own world. It was a long shot, a desperate gamble. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with perils and unknowns. But it was their only hope. The portal was their beacon, a distant light in the overwhelming darkness. The journey was fraught with danger. Every step was a test of their resolve. Every shadow a potential threat. They were hunted, pursued by shadows that never slept. These relentless pursuers were driven by a dark force, intent on stopping them at any cost. But they pressed on, driven by love and fear. Their bond was their strength, their determination unyielding. They had to reach the portal. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they arrived, exhausted but hopeful. The air crackled with energy. The portal was alive with power, a swirling vortex of possibility. The portal shimmered, a beacon of hope in a world of darkness. This was their chance, their escape, the culmination of their arduous journey. Laran took a deep breath, her heart pounding. The weight of their journey and the hope for a new beginning rested on her shoulders. She looked at Thorne, their eyes locking one last time. A silent promise passed between them, a vow to protect and survive. Then she stepped into the portal, her son cradled safely in her arms. The portal engulfed them, a magical transition to a new world, a new hope. Section 10, a looming threat. Earth, a world of blue skies and endless oceans, a world so different from their own. It was overwhelming, exhilarating, terrifying, but it was safe for now. They blended in, learning the customs of this strange new world. They built a life for themselves, a semblance of normalcy, but the past was never far behind. The threat remained. They could feel it, lurking in the shadows, waiting for its moment to strike. The prophecy echoed in their minds. Their son was not safe, not entirely. The battle may be over, but the war was far from won. The fight for their son's destiny, for the fate of two worlds, had just begun.